Launching the 3 trillion rupee Revamp distributor sector scheme last week, Prime Minister Narendra Modi urged states to clear their unpaid dues, estimated to be a staggering 2.5 trillion rupees, to distribution and generating companies. He said clearing these bills was not a case of politics but nation building. According to Power Ministry data, states and union territories together owed more than 1.1 trillion rupees to generating companies, while the total money owed to the Discoms stood at 1.4 trillion rupees. The vast majority of consumers in India, nearly 90%, are still served by state-owned utilities. But Discoms continue to be the weakest link in the supply chain of the power sector, with most of them making losses as a result of expensive long-term power purchase agreements, poor infrastructure, and inefficient operations, among others. The losses prevent them from making the required investments to modernize the distribution infrastructure and improve the quality of power supply. The Discoms' inability to pay GenCos, in turn, endangers the financial health of the generators and their lenders, causing a negative domino effect on the economy. The Revamp Distribution Sector Scheme is the fifth Discom bailout scheme from the centre in the past 2 decades and the third by the PM Modi-led government alone. The scheme will offer Discoms financial assistance for infrastructure creation, including prepaid smart metering and feeder separation, upgradation of systems, etc., based on pre-qualifying criteria. The overall aim is to reduce pan-Indian aggregate technical and commercial losses to 12 to 15% from the current 21.73%, and the gap between the average cost of supply and average revenue realized to zero by FY25 from the current 0.39 rupees per kilowatt hour. 38 Discoms have received funding approval to the tune of 1.9 trillion rupees after meeting the qualification criteria. The schemes implemented so far have not been able to ensure a sustainable turnaround of both finances and operations of the Discoms. In May, the government notified a scheme to liquidate overdues that Discoms owe GenCos by enabling them to pay their dues in 48 installments. According to CRISIL, the success of the scheme will depend on how Discoms are able to enhance their revenues and an enforcement mechanism that ensures timely payment to GenCos. Many states provide subsidized and sometimes free electricity for agriculture. The total of annual power subsidy schemes and financial assistance across a sample of 5 highly indebted states like Madhya Pradesh, Jharkhand, Andhra Pradesh, Punjab and Rajasthan adds up to 42,155 crore rupees. Further, theft of electricity continues to be rampant in many parts of the country.
In fact, as far as the subsidy quantum is concerned, the subsidy dependence is pretty inherent and it has gone up. It's as high as 1.5 lakh crore for a sector as a whole. Based on our estimates in current financial year, that roughly contributes almost 19% of the Discom revenues. So the subsidy receipt has to be adequate and timely, from the respective state governments towards the state Discoms. Over the next, 3 to 5 years, this RDSS scheme essentially talks about, initiatives in smart metering and distribution capex, strengthening schemes. So we have to wait and watch how these schemes get, panned out and implemented in a timely manner to bring about the AT&C loss level improvement for the number of state Discoms. There has to be a proper discipline by the state Discoms in terms of filing the tariff petitions in a timely manner. We have seen number of delays in tariff petition filing as well, and also subsequent delays in the tariff order issuance by the respective, state level electricity commission bodies across the states. In fact, the tariff orders are still pending for the larger states in, for the Discoms in larger states like, UP, Tamil Nadu, Rajasthan, and West Bengal, and so on. And if you look at the overall quantum of the tariff hike, for the current year, it's still pretty low. It's about 2.2% median tariff hike based on the analyzed data for the various tariff orders issued across the number of states, almost 18 states, I guess. And this number is somewhat higher vis-a-vis on a YOY basis, because last year that number was less than 1% in FY21, and even before that it was almost zero. So we have certainly seen some improvement in terms of upward tariff revision on a aggregate basis, but this number is still lower than and likely to be far inadequate in terms of what is required to meet the cost of supply, because the cost of supply for the state Discoms is on upward pressure because of rising imported coal dependency for the entire power sector. In addition to the timeliness in tariff order issuance, what is also required is a cost reflective tariff determination. And to that extent, upward tariff revision is certainly required for a number of states.
There has been some headway from states. For instance, the Tamil Nadu government has proposed an electricity tariff hike after a gap of 8 years, though experts say the quantum of hike is not enough to overcome the state Discoms financial crisis. The latest scheme focuses on capex, and a certain portion of the outlay under it will be in the form of grants. The availability of these grants will be subject to the concerned state Discoms meeting certain performance milestones, which will be monitored by the concerned nodal agency over the next 5 years. So, there is clearly an attempt to make the scheme result-oriented. However, the distribution segment is a state subject. Thus, strong political will and support is required across state governments for the scheme to succeed.
If you like this video, share it and subscribe to Business Standard. For more news, views and insights, log on to www.business-standard.com. Do also follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Telegram and LinkedIn.
सब अच्छी दिख रही हैं यार, कौन सी खरीदूं?
ये तो वही बात हुई, 4000 शेयर्स लिस्टेड है, कौन सा लूं?
वो तो सबसे आसान है।
तुझे 5 पैसा नहीं पता?
अब तो सबको पता है। 5 पैसा पर है 4000 स्टॉक्स की रिसर्च, टेक्निकल टूल्स और इन्वेस्टमेंट आइडियाज। डाउनलोड 5 पैसा नाउ।
अब तो सबको पता है, investing made easy and rewarding with 5 paisa. Investments in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.